Welcome back to Monday Morning Motivation, where we reset, refocus, and start the week with a little more intention. I'm Gabby, and this is your space to get grounded and go after what you want out of life. On average, 70% of podcast listeners don't subscribe to the podcast they listen to, so if you've ever been inspired, learned something, or been left with positivity from the show, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button so we can keep connecting, having real conversations, and growing together. Wow, we are here, week 2. Welcome back to Mondays. I first off wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the love for the first round of this. I'm excited to keep this going and get to connect more. We are going to get into all the tips in the fun Monday part, but I kind of wanted to test out if we could just hang out for the first couple of minutes, just some updates. If you end up hating that, just tell me and I won't ever talk about myself again. Just kidding. So for those of you who are not from the South or don't have any experience with that, I surely did not before I moved here. What was that, 2023 for a second? But we are going through a freeze right now, which growing up in the North, that is literally laughable, because when I say we're going through a freeze, I mean literally just a freeze. Like, it's only a couple degrees colder than 32, literally freezing. But what happens here, I had no idea this is what you had to do, but I guess because some of the plants and the grass and things are different here, we literally, again by we, I mean Garrett and my dad actually helped, but they had to cover all of the plants. You get big tarps and stakes, and you have to stake it into the ground. And if you know anything about Garrett, he really loves his lawn and all of the lawn things, so he takes much pride in this. He stakes it all down, and then our luck, it gets windy and it blows away, and then he gets upset, and it's quite sad. But it's crazy because I was driving around today and it's kind of brown. It's giving Arizona for a second, just because I guess the grass, I think it's Bermuda, someone correct me if I'm wrong, Bermuda grass, it just really hates the cold. So that's been interesting, but it has been making me feel very grateful because yes, this feels very cold, but I do know it was getting like Antarctica cold in Chicago. I know New York is in the negatives, so I will take this. I've also had some really, I don't want to say difficult, I mean, yes, difficult, bittersweet endings and lasts this week. I talk about this more in my full solo episode on Wednesday, so I don't want to get into it too much, but a lot of change happening over here and a lot of growth and new seasons, which I'm excited to bring you guys along for. It's been a lot of emotions, just the bittersweet of it. It brings me back to like when a season of Rockettes would end, because it was that very bittersweet feeling and conflicting emotions. That's how I coined it. I'm not the original creator of that. The really sad, because it was such a beautiful chapter, both that and what I'm referring to right now, but it's also really exciting because there's new things coming, and that means growth. Or during season, it meant I could rest and see my family for the holidays, which we love. But what has been also helping my dealing with all the conflicting emotions, I've been time blocking my days. It sounds really boring and weird, but I was having a lot of trouble feeling like I had done enough every day, or just feeling like there were a million things I still had to do. And I had kind of dabbled in serious time blocking, and it was hard to find a real system that kind of worked for me. But Garrett and I kind of figured it out. We had a nice little conversation. Again, it's a little more on Wednesday's episode, but I now have at the end of every day physical proof of all of the things that I did get done, so I don't feel like I didn't get enough done. But also it alleviates that stress of having those open loops and having things that I have in the future that I have to take care of, get done, but I just know that there's time allotted. Let's get into the meat of it. I already got so many great messages from last week's episode, so I figured I would kind of dive in a little bit deeper, just kind of focusing more on fitness and how you can make the most out of your fitness classes as a dancer. I'm going to be using precision as my example because that's what I have, but truly this really could apply to any type of dance. But just some tips that once I started implementing this mindset, this kind of headspace, I was able to bridge a lot of gaps sooner in my dancing. So taking it back to episode 1, I mentioned the first thing that I did for myself when I was approaching fitness in terms of cross training for dance. I kind of tried to break down my weaknesses and what I was lacking. For me, it was, many things, but my main ones I wanted to focus on with fitness was dynamics and moving fast. And I knew I was lacking just overall strength, because just growing up, my era, I don't feel as though cross training was as integrated into dance curriculum or even encouraged outside of it. I think it was so new and things were just evolving. And to be quite honest, I don't think I really had much time because it was, you wake up in the morning, you go to school all day. I would do my after school activity, orchesis, POMs, whatever it was. Come home, eat real quick, change, go to dance all night, come home, do my homework, go to bed. So, really, there was not time to work out. And it just was not really a priority to me until I kind of got more serious and I realized, okay, I'm going to need to kind of take this cross training thing very seriously. Another key for you, and something that I still keep with me, even though I'm not actively pursuing performing anymore, is just to really find something, yes, that is supporting your goals, but also that you enjoy doing because that is how you are going to stick with it. Because for me right now, it's actually been really nice to not have this approach maybe of, well, I'm just going to share with you my mindset reframe for dance, but I don't have a why outside of myself and wanting to stay strong and take care of my body and have the longevity and all the other health benefits that come with working out. So it was super important for me to prioritize something that I, one, enjoy doing, two, enjoyed the community, and three, was going to challenge me. And that's why I kind of started into the more reformer based classes, just because I knew what was coming with bar things. And that's not necessarily a bad thing at all. But also, really, the main reason was because the bar studio is so far from my house and the Legree studio is 10 minutes away. So lots of different factors, but those are also things to think about, right? Like if you're trying to come up with a workout regimen and the class that you are going to take 4 days a week is a 45-minute drive from you, then you're probably not going to be able to make it as often, right? Another thing I like to really think about is group classes versus solo training types of things. I think both are necessary because you can't always have access to different classes. And I don't believe that that should be your only source of movement. So learning and taking those things on for yourself, because I just think it's also beneficial. So you know what your body needs to feel warm, so you can keep up with certain areas you're trying to really hone in on. Okay, I digress. We're getting a little carried away. But the secret sauce, it's not really a secret. I truly, truly believe that you can start to integrate your mentality into your workouts and you are going to get double the work out of it. So stay with me for a second. Or what is it? Two birds with one stone. I don't know when this started to click necessarily. It's really easy to say, oh yeah, think about your dance things when you're doing a workout. But you're like, how do I do that? What do you mean I'm thinking about the workout? When I would take a Pure Barre class, so this would apply to any musically driven class, kind of naturally started to notice I would be moving to the music, doing down an inch, up an inch, down an inch, up an inch, moving on the back of the beat and focusing on holding each position for the longest amount of time, which in precision world, that is 110%, one, a skill you need, and two, a skill I was working on, right? Because you want to get to a position and stay there versus really moving through it and being ahead. We move so fast that you have to kind of have that calm, confident approach to it. So I was literally doing that in a Pure Barre class. Imagine all the other normal people in the class just going to the beat of the music, having a good time, and there's me borderline looks robotic compared to everyone else. So one, it was training my body to move that way, but it was also my brain was hearing music differently and then translating it to my body differently. It sounds wild, but try it for a few classes and report back to me because it just changes how you hear it. Because I remember for so long, I was like, I don't know how to move that fast. I don't understand what that is. So when you're in a workout class, you're moving. So how are you moving to the music? And it kind of helps when you're, doing something painful and it's very difficult. Then you can kind of focus on something else a little bit and kind of get through it. But that's one bizarre way. I hope I explained that correctly. But just integrating musicality into a musically driven workout class. That is option one that I love to do. The other thing in Pure Barre specifically, but again, any type of body weight, I mean, you really could do this in any class actually, or any workout. I was also that posture girl. If you were doing weight work, if you're not familiar, you have really light weights. You're just standing for 6 to 7 minutes looking at the mirror, facing the front, whatever. And it's difficult, right? Your arms start to hurt. You want to drop them. You start to sink into your low back if you're not standing up properly. So I would be standing with such a proud open chest. This is just a personal thing, but my shoulders are kind of stick up higher than my lats. like, or they did. I don't know if they do anymore, but they were kind of my lats needed work. But then, also when you're holding tension somewhere in your body, a lot of times it creeps into your shoulders and your neck. So I would use the visual, and like roll my shoulders down and back and re-lock in and think about lifting through the crown of my head and pulling down through my heels and keeping my rib cage knit together and engaged the entire time, like I was borderline performing, right? Like I wasn't standing in the middle of the Pure Barre studio, like smiling, geeking out, but I was, presenting and keeping my chest open and thinking about that alignment, because oftentimes in any dance job, you're dancing and it's difficult and it's easy to lose and disconnect from certain parts of your bodies. So really honing back into your core and remembering that your movement is stemming from there. So just even not standing in weight work, anything I'm doing, if I was doing a seat exercise, what's my core doing? What are my shoulders doing? Where am I feeling the support from? So just like taking those mental notes of that mind-body connection of where you're holding on to things and how that's just going to naturally transition into dance. And it's also going to speed up the mind-body connection quicker. So it's really a big mindset, like reframe of I'm not just coming to work out because I have to. It's training for dance, more literally than just saying I have to cross train for dance. Breaking down my second one that I had talked about, which was lifting weights, same kind of idea. I made sure that the lifts that I was doing were specific to my needs of what I was trying to accomplish. And I don't mean that aesthetically. I remembered from one summer intensive, one of the athletic trainers said, I would rather you train your back. It was like 2 or 3 times to your chest. And that stuck with me. I think I was like 15 when I heard that. And I said, heard. Okay. So what did I not do? Train my chest at the gym. I'm not saying you have to take it to that extreme, but in Pure Barre, there are so many push-ups and so many planks. And I knew I was getting it there. And I knew my lats needed to work, right? My shoulders were like, it looked like I had shoulder pads on and I didn't know how to use my back, but my shoulders were just a little overdeveloped. So I made sure I was doing my lat pull downs. I was doing rows, thinking about exercises and what I would need. Same for, I think it was from being tall my whole life. Don't naturally have the best posture, or I didn't for a long time. And I think it came from years of trying to kind of shrink myself and feeling like that really tall girl in class. I had to really work on opening up through my chest even more. So I'm going to work on stretching my chest and strengthening my back. And for me, if I was in a kick line, I knew rotator cuffs was a big one for me. So that was another big place that I focused on, was that rotator cuff, that ability to keep an open chest with keeping my rib cage closed. Again, even as I'm standing at the cable machine, it's actually like one of my favorite lifts to do to this day. I'm like on a lifting hiatus. Not actually, I still do it sometimes, but it's just not my jam at the current moment. I'm sure it will cycle back in at some point, but I would literally every time I go to the gym, I'm like, oh, gotta do my rotator cuffs, because something about it's so satisfying. But anyways, I'm standing there. I would have my other hand on my hip, shoulders down and back, proud chest, re-engage through your core, elbows tucked to your side, and you're opening and closing the cable. Like, it just was second nature at this point. That's just what I would do. Not to be a weird girl at the gym, just because that was my goal. Like, that was my why. So it was so much easier to then transfer that into my workouts rather than just kind of going through the motions. It was the same thing for legs. I did a lot of hamstrings, right? I did a lot of deadlifts. I did a lot of curls. There's different things you can do, but I knew for kicking and controlling the height, my hamstrings needed to be strong. I needed to be able to yank them down and I needed to be able to control them. Those things were all super important. And I do think you definitely don't want to overtrain one body part, but just in general, I think that you can try to hone in and be a little more intentional with any type of cross training that you're doing. And it's just saving you time. It's just connecting everything a little bit more, whether you're by yourself or you're in a class, just being really present. And it kind of ties into my quote for this Monday or whatever day you're listening to this. My quote is, different seasons require different strategies. So it's not to say that you can't just go take a workout class to have a workout class, because I think any movement is greater than no movement. But if you're trying to kind of up your game and be a little more intentional and really get specific on your dance goals, I got you. And if you liked this, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any more Mondays. And if you have any specific topics you want to get into, you know where to find me.